There was once a village called Umuaka, resting on the edge of a river that stretched endlessly like the back of a great python. The river was wide, dark and restless, its water never still, always churning as if its held secrets too heavy to remain silent. It had no name, for the people of Umuaka feared it too much to give it one. To call it by a name would mean enemies, and no human could ever own that river. The elders warned every child never to go near the river after sunset. They told stories of voices rising from its depths, of shadows moving under its surface, and of fishermen who entered its water and never returned. For generations, the people of Umaka lived with the river as both friend and enemy. It gave them rain when the sky grew dry. It fed the earth with rich soil for yam and cassava. Yet, it demanded something in return. Every few years, someone would vanish near its bank. A herdsman chasing a stray goat, a woman fetching water, a careless child following a butterfly too far. The villagers believed the river had a hunger of its own, a hunger that could not be tamed, so they built shrine at its edge, where sacrifices of palm oil, kola nuts, and sometimes goats were made. Despite all this, hunger still lived among them. When the sun grew angry and refused to let the clouds fall, their yam barns emptied quickly. The soil cracked like broken pottery, and even the strongest hunter returned with empty hands. It was in such a season that the story of Okechukwu began. Okechukwu was just a boy of 15, slender and restless, with eyes that carried the stubborn light of someone who believed the world could not cage him. His father, a great fisherman, had been taken by the river when Okechukwu was barely 5. His mother raised him with warnings carved into her voice. Never fish in the forbidden river, never break the law of the water, never let hunger push you into foolishness. But hunger has its own language. It speaks louder than the voice of mothers, louder than the wisdom of elders, louder than the fear of spirits. By the third month of the drought, Okechukwu's mother had only a small calabash of garri left. His younger sister's belly swelled, not from food, but from emptiness. Their hearts smelled of smoke without soup, and silence without laughter. One evening, Okechukwu stood at the river bank. The sky above was deep red, as if bleeding into night. He carried a good fishing net he had woven from raffia, rough and uneven, but it was all he had. He knew the elders' warning, but his stomach growled like a restless drum. He whispered to himself, "If the river wants a fight, let it come. I will not die of hunger like a goat tied to a post." He stepped into the water. It was colder than he imagined. He cast his net once, twice, thrice, and each time it came back empty. But on the fourth throw, the net grew heavy. His heart leapt. He pulled with all his strength, his muscles straining, and when he dragged it ashore, what lay within was no ordinary fish. It shimmered in the fading light, scales glowing like pieces of the moon. Its eyes were red, too human to belong to any creature of water. It thrashed and hissed, not like a fish, but like something older, angrier. Okechukwu froze. He should have left it, run home, prayed for forgiveness, but hunger makes the heart deaf. He lifted a stone and struck the creature until it stilled. He carried it home proud, his feet quick, his mind already dreaming of roasted flesh. When his mother saw the fish, her face drained of blood. She fell on her knees and cried out, calling on the gods of the land and water. She refused to touch it, refused to cook it, but Okechukwu, stubborn as fire, roasted it himself over dry wood. The smell filled the hut, rich and tempting. Even his sister, who is too weak to stand, licked her lips. They ate that night, and for the first time in months, their bellies slept full. Okechukwu felt victorious. He laughed at the river, laughed at the warnings, laughed at the fear that had ruled his people for centuries. But the river does not forget. That night, when the village was swallowed in darkness, a sound rose from the water. It was not the normal rushing of currents, but a deep hum, like a drum made of thunder. The earth trembled, the air grew heavy, dogs whimpered, babies wailed without waking. Okechukwu dreamed. He dreamed of a woman taller than any tree, with hair flowing like rivers and eyes as red as the fish he had killed. She wore a crown of shells, and her voice was the sound of waves crashing on stones. She pointed at him, her finger long and sharp, and her voice rolled like a storm. "You have eaten what belongs to me, now I shall eat what belongs to you." He woke with sweat soaking his mat. Outside, The wind howled as though the night itself was angry. He told himself it was just a dream. But when he looked for his sister the next morning, her mouth was empty. The village gathered quickly. The mother screamed until her voice broke, accusing the river, accusing her son. Elders shook their head. They knew the river had begun its vengeance. Okechukwu swore to them he would bring her back. But they spat at his feet. No one who enters the belly of the river returns, they told him. But Okechukwu was his father's son. He would not watch his sister vanish without a fight. That night, when the moon rose full and white, he returned to the river. The water was too calm, too quiet, as if waiting. He tied charms around his waist, given to him by a wandering Libya who once lodged in their village. He stepped into the river and it swallowed him whole. Beneath the surface was not water, but another world. He sank into a palace of glass and stone, where fish swam like soldiers and shadow whispered like leaves. At the heart of it sat the woman he saw in his dream, the river goddess. His sister lay at her feet, asleep but breathing. The goddess smiled, her teeth like polished ivory. You have courage, she said, but courage does not erase offense. You took from me, now I'll take from you, unless you prove yourself worthy. Okechukwu fell to his knees. Test me, he begged. The goddess lifted her hand, and 3 stacks appeared before him. A basket filled with sand. He must carry it without spilling a grain. A calabash filled with water. He must keep it unbroken through a storm. A drum with no skin. He must make it sing. Each task was impossible for a boy, yet he had no choice. With each trial, he faced spirits that mocked, winds that tore at him, shadows that clawed his skin, yet he remembered his sister's laugh, his mother's tears, his home hunger. He endured. By dawn, bruised and bleeding, he placed his drum before the goddess. When he struck it, no sound came. His heart shattered, but then he realized the sound was not outside, but within him. He sang of hunger, of love, of courage, and the drum echoed his voice. The goddess wept. For the first time in centuries, she heard the voice of a mortal unbroken by fear. She released his sister, and she gave Okechukwu a gift, a small calabash that would never empty of food, as long as he respected the river. When Okechukwu returned, the village could hardly believe their eyes. His sister ran to their mother. The elders bowed, for no one had ever defied the river and lived. From that day, Okechukwu became legend, the boy who faced the forbidden river and returned with both life and blessing. But every year, on the night of his victory, he would return to the river bank. He would kneel, pour palm oil on waters and whisper, I have not forgotten, for the river does not forgive easily, and even gives calm with shadows.